Interestingly enough, today in a course that I was teaching here for Ligonier, we talked a little bit about this and the change of view that has taken place since the Puritan period of the 17th century, when the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit was a definite sin, a definite moment, an existential moment in a person's life when they said no to the gospel or no to the work of the Holy Spirit. And it was interesting, I was pointing out that Martin Lloyd-Jones, I think in Preaching and Preachers, says that this was what had troubled his congregation the most in the course of his ministry. And I have to say that probably most interpreters today viewed the sin against the Holy Spirit as unbelief, that the only sin that cannot be forgiven is unbelief, and that if you are brought before the judgment seat of God and do not believe, there is no forgiveness, and that is the sin against the Holy Spirit. I think I'm more with the Puritans. I think that the sin against the Holy Spirit, and therefore the unforgivable sin, is something that can be committed in the course of one's life, rather than pushing it to the very end and the day of judgment, basically.
I've heard it said that if you are concerned that you've committed this, that you need not worry, that you haven't committed it. Is it
not
that simple?
necessarily. You could still have done it and still be concerned about it, but it's a good sign.
Okay.
But I think in the first instance, when you're talking about blasphemy, it has to do with something you say or write. And the context in which the warning was given was the context in which the Pharisees were accusing Jesus of doing his miracles by the power of the devil. And it was like he said, be careful, you're this close. And notice that at the time of the crucifixion, at the book of Acts, Jesus says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And in the early parts of Acts, had they known, they wouldn't have crucified the Lord of glory, and so on. I think that the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit happens once the Holy Spirit reveals to a person that Jesus is the Christ, and then they accuse him of being a devil. Then I think you're toast. You're cooked. Now, I don't know whether anybody ever does that, but again, I don't think we ought to get away from what the very root meaning of blasphemy is. It's a verbal thing.